Hello, and welcome back to the Real Podcast Mini, where the travels of the night. Once again, I'm joined by my brother Nicholas. What's up, Nicholas?
Yo,
And
yo,
this
I'm
is going
good.
to be our episode 2 of our mini series covering one of our favorite Marvel shows, Moon Knight. Now, this episode we're covering episode 2 of the series. It's called Some in the Suit. And Nicholas, how did you like that episode overall?
I think that episode was good. It's I think it's equally as hype as number one, I'd say, because we get to see Mr. Knight.
Mm-hmm.
It diverted my expectations because I didn't know Steven was gonna be Mr. Knight. Whatever. I thought that was interesting, but
Right.
I thought it was good.
That was a good surprise because we saw Mr. Knight in the posters. And Stephen Grant is Mr. Knight in the comic. If you read the comic books, for people that didn't read them, they wouldn't have known. So that was a good twist. No one was really expecting. I did like how they dived deeper into Arthur Harrow's relationship with Khonshu and Mark. They told us in this episode that he was Khonshu's previous avatar, which again, Arthur Harrow is a completely new character. So this is diverting from the comic books completely. So it gives us a new perspective on Khonshu. And, Khonshu's kind of just this petulant child. He's trying to get his way. And we don't know really why yet. But it seems Arthur was leading us on to, he's kind of crazy. And you shouldn't trust Khonshu. Remember, it's like, kill him. Break his windpipe. He's saying he's real justice, isn't he? And right on cue, Khonshu goes, I am real justice. And it's like, okay, maybe Khonshu isn't always leading on.
Yes, but when we think that we are falling for Harrow, though, Harrow is not only trying to manipulate Steven, he's trying to manipulate us.
True. I like in this episode a lot of them, like I said last time, the mirror shots, and you can still see Mark in those and get his perspective, even though he's not here. This is the first full conversation with Mark and Steven acknowledging one another. Besides the ending of the last episode, in the beginning of this episode, when Steven discovers Mark's little safe house or storage unit, I guess they have a conversation there where Mark explains to Steven that he's Khonshu's avatar, he's his servant, and whatnot. I like the horror element that happens immediately after that when he's running through the hallways. However, this is one of the first big points where you can really tell that this show is constrained, probably due to COVID and social distancing, because the shots in there are very sporadic. I don't think they're very clean, and that whole scene ends on a fade out. Like it ends on a still, so it almost seems unfinished. But I feel like that's a product of what they were limited to. So their limitations kind of started to show in that, especially in that one particular scene. But I think it makes up for it in the second half of the episode. This also gives us some more world building on Mark. We're introduced to his wife or ex-wife Layla. She gives us some nice exposition. They were on the hunt together searching for the relic that we established last episode. When Steven gets kidnapped by Harrow's followers, excuse me, they were talking about what Mark did in the past. He was a mercenary, killed a bunch of people. Gives more questions for Steven, who's just now figuring this out. Gives more questions for Mark to answer, even though he probably doesn't want to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good episode for exposition, diving more into the characters, answering some questions, but then asking a lot more to keep us engaged. How do you feel about that?
I always thought the episode was it just provides very much needed background. With Layla and the phone. I think when you look at a story, I think it's like a story triangle. And there's the beginning, and there's rising action, and then there's the climax, and then there's falling action. This is a rising action episode. You know what I mean?
It did have a nice climax at the end.
Yeah. Yes. Each episode has the arc.
Each episode gives us a nice climax to give us that nice juicy chunk, that good nice piece of steak, and then it cuts us and keeps us wanting more. It keeps us engaged for the next episode. So at the end of each episode, it gives us that nice hook in, and we're kind of stuck there waiting for the rest of the week.
The episode ends with he was in Egypt.
Yes, but coming back a bit, it starts the beginning of the end happens when Steven's falling out of that building and he finally summons a suit. It's Mr. Nice. The CGI looks clean. His costume looks really good. I found out the costumes were practical. So they actually made those costumes for both Mark and Steven. I think the only part that was CG were the eyes. The fight with the, not Anubis, the Jackal was good. It was funny. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My name's Steven with a V. Pow! That was nice. I like that a lot. Again, Oscar Isaac totally created Steven having a British accent, That wasn't something that was in the books. He gave him his own personality. And I really like that. It's a cool contrast between him and Mark. He did what he tried to do. Mark's like, he put up a good fight. But I need to, give that body back real quick. Gets the body back. Gets our first definitive fight scene with pure MoonKnight. Again, CG is a bit rocky, but in the moment you can't tell. It's only when you kind of look back and have to dig deep and actually detail it, where you're like, okay, this looks a bit shoddy. But the overall presentation is really good. There's a nice, beautiful shot at the end where he strikes the Jackal through the chest. And then you look up, and it's that behind a crescent moon. It's just if you saw the shot, it's like, okay, this is a MoonKnight show, Go ahead.
Like, going back a bit, what makes MoonKnight so good is that because, be honest, unless you were like a super hardcore Marvel fan, you probably didn't know about MoonKnight.
No.
So they have so much more freedom because even if they did change into the comics, people aren't gonna get all up and on about it.
Right. He's not
nobody knows who he is.
Right, and he's not he wasn't a mainstream character.
So that's why I think they just gave Oscar Isaac complete freedom on what he wanted to do with this character.
And it worked. It worked very well. Going back to the ending shots, probably my favorite scene, second favorite scene, probably my favorite scene in this episode is the reveal of Mr. Knight and Steven and that whole bit in the alley. But my second favorite is afterwards. Steven is actually confronting Mark. I don't like this. Give me my body back. You are just an awful person. This has to stop. And they're arguing, and then it culminates with Mark getting mad, lashing out, smashing the mirror. And for a normal person, like you think about it, looking outside of their conversation, he's crazy. He's legitimately crazy. He's arguing with himself in the mirror and then smashing the mirror. Like, he's full-blown bonkers. And I think if you as an audience member, as a viewer, out of context of the show, they think they did that pretty well. Not to say that they're capturing what someone with a mental disorder looks like. This is all fiction and all, but if you were to describe what a crazy person was, I think Oscar is playing it very well. How do you like that scene?
Yeah, I thought that scene was good. What can I really say? I mean, he's very obviously crazy, and I think the gods, Hera kind of has a point in later episodes when don't
fast forward too far just yet.
When Hera asked, when they asked him,
they did ask him this. They did ask him this episode. He did say that. I think I know what you're talking about. He was like, did you think Khonshu chose you because your mind was so easily broken, or it was because it was already so broken already? And Khonshu in this episode is alluding to this, it's kind of mean. He's like, I lost it. We gotta go find it. All right, we gotta go. Mark's like, where are we going? Fucking, where the hell do you think, Mark? We're going to Egypt. And it cuts to them, waking up, just kind of half crazed, dazed, out in Cairo, and you pan to the Great Pyramids, and that's where the rest of the series takes place in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And it leaves us with a nice little cliffhanger.
Even though that the series seems to portray Khonshu as the bad guy.
It doesn't. It's not necessarily portrays him as a bad guy. It portrays him as he always has ulterior motives. He doesn't have per se Mark or Steven's best interest at heart. He has his own motives he's after. They're literally pawns in his game.
Even after they introduced Amit, which we
Well, they didn't introduce Amit yet.
no, yeah, but like even after before
I mean,
that,
they did, but we haven't. The most we saw was Arthur summoned that jackal with the staff he got from her. You know.
In later episodes when they introduced.
Wait, we can't just jump forward later episodes, Nicholas. We're always focusing on the second one. That's how good the show is. You want to jump to the next episodes. You want to keep talking about it, but we gotta save that. Gotta let it simmer for a bit. But while we end off this little mini-sode, I gave this episode, like for the last episode, 8 and 9 out of 10. All these are 8, 9 out of 10, which make the whole series as a whole 10 out of 10 for me. Because nothing is perfect completely, Everything has its flaws. But those 9.5 out of 10s each episode, for me, average out to a nice 10 out of 10 for the series as a whole. So this episode is a 9 out of 10 for me. What is it for you?
I give one a 9 in this one. I think maybe one a 9.5 simply because it's just you get to see MoonKnight for the first time. No, it gets a 9.5 simply because of that one bathroom scene.
Oh yeah, but this one, the same thing can be said about this one with both Mr. Knight and MoonKnight scenes that they had in this episode. I believe the second half of the episode was much better than the first half.
Really?
I think the action saves it this episode.
I think they both get like around 9s.
Right. So that concludes our mini episode. This will be up on YouTube when it comes out. I'd like to thank everybody for listening and watching with us. We'll be back for episode 3. Till then, see you later.